welcome to this episode of Equalizer. My name is William Acosta. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with a guest whose career spans some of the most demanding and dangerous assignments in American law enforcement and national security. Our guest is retired Senior Special Agent Martin SUAREZ. He served 10 years in the U.S. Navy from 1977 to 1987 as an engineer division officer responsible for main propulsion systems and missile operations, earning a Bachelor of Naval Science from the University of New Mexico and completing both the Naval Engineer School and the Naval Surface Warfare School. After leaving the Navy, he went on to distinguished career 23 years as an FBI Special Agent, serving in the Miami Division and in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and later returning to Miami, where he led major investigations involving drug cartels, organized crime, public corruption, murder for hire plots, national security threats, and terrorism. Mr. SUAREZ became a specialist in undercover work, completing the FBI Undercover School in 1990 and advanced undercover training in 1998, then serving as a Southeast Region Undercover Backstabbing Coordinator in Miami, supporting national and international undercover cases, instructing at undercover certification schools, and working as a safeguard assessment counselor with the FBI Undercover Behavioral Science Unit. He holds the record for the longest continuous time spent undercover in FBI history and successfully infiltrated criminal organizations in the United States, Europe, Asia, Central and South America, and the Caribbean, earning him 6 FBI Special Performance Awards, 4 Department of Justice Outstanding Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Awards, and the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Association Lifetime Achievement Award. How are you? Welcome to this episode of Equalizer, mi hermano. It is an honor to have you here, and thank you for taking from your busy schedule to be with us. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and how was your upbringing?
Yes, so thank you for having me. My upbringing was I was born in the U.S. and Long Island, New York, and then, but I never lived there really. I was taken to Puerto Rico as a child, okay? And then I grew up in Puerto Rico, joined the Navy at the age of 23, and the rest is history. As I was being raised, I played a lot of water polo, I surfed a lot, your typical island life.
And after you finish 10 years in the Navy, and you finish your university in Texas while going to school in the Navy, you applied for the FBI and got recruited into the FBI.
Right.
Did you imagine that your early experiences with crime or law enforcement, how it shaped you as a person now?
I wasn't surprised. I think in a weird way, the way I chose to start and continue my career, I used the experience in the Navy as a springboard to do my job as an FBI agent. So it was a pretty easy transition. And that in the Navy I had two divisions of 100 men that were under me, all engineering. And then that gave me a good base to join the FBI, and I was able to take from those experiences and use it to my advantage.
When did you started working undercover inside the cartels in Colombia, Medellin, and other cartels? When did that happen?
So I started working all kinds of violations. My first stint into the cartels was I was asked if I could take a boat from Miami to the Bahamas, a fast boat, for an operation. And I said, yeah, I can take the boat over. I did. And then once I was there, I observed the FBI and the agents working undercover. I was sort of like the boat guy. And I was early on realized that the best investigative technique, was that of the undercover, because Title III's and other surveillance techniques did not gather the same kind of intelligence that I thought was solid, such as the human involved with undercover work, with this pretty much bread and butter of the undercover work are its sources in many ways.
What was your perception of the drug and the cartels when you first started working inside of them?
So when I started mid to late 80s, the cartels were it was what was going on in Miami, and back then in the Bureau, narcotics was the number one violation priority in the Bureau, and those were the Reagan years, and after pretty much the Reagan years. And so the groups dominating here in Miami were the South American groups, particularly Colombian groups, who were the biggest managers of money laundering and smuggling here in Miami and the Caribbean and elsewhere.
How was the MANNY identity first conceived? Was it something that you came up with, or was it something that the unit in the FBI said, listen, your name is going to be MANNY?
No, actually the name MANNY was given to me by one of my sources, a female source. She was a high echelon smuggler, married into the smuggling groups in Colombia and the Caribbean, and I recruited her together with her husband, and that's a real long story. We got to working together and under keeping the moral and legal imperatives, we became close. And then she baptized me as Manny, My name was Martin, and it wasn't a long stretch.
What was the first introduction that put Manny in front of serious traffickers in the realm of Gacha or Pablo or one of his underlings? What was the first introduction?
So the way this worked out is I walked into it slowly without knowing that I was even working into the fabric of the cartels. And I was started doing smaller jobs like always on boats, bringing in pretty large loads, but they were not mine. I was just a boat driver. But I saw that how the business was conducted, and the source is the husband and wife team that I recruited. They introduced me. They were highly placed, and the male source, he was one of Gacha's personal pilots back in the day in the mid 80s, late 70s.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know is that Gacha was not from Medellin. Gacha was from Pacho, Cundinamarca, which is
Right.
the Emerald region of Colombia. And he was
Right.
very close to Mr. Carranza, the king
Right.
of the Emerald world
Right.
at that time.
Right.
And Gacha
Right.
also happened to be one of the most violent individuals in the cartel, even more violent than Pablo Escobar.
Right. So my source was really close to him. He took my source under his wing, and he became his personal pilot. But at the same time, my source gave me 1,000 stories about Gacha, that he was ruthless, but he was kind with his people. But if you cross him, of course, and then he went to tell me about the time he spent in the barracks and the jungles, where they lived under infra-human conditions.
What did you learn early on about the culture inside the FBI when it came to deep cover investigations? Because, what people see is that they see an undercover and they're doing all types of things, but they don't see beyond that. It's an entire team of individuals, including intelligent analysts, including the group supervisor, the people in other groups, other agencies involved in making sure that everything, including your safety, is well kept.
So the FBI had more so than they concentrated. The culture for the leadership was that they favored undercover operations, and they were very creative and very supportive in sense of providing whatever you needed to get your job done. And they ran the interference of people who were not as didn't like undercover operations as much. And so I had great leaders. I was able to go do whatever I did in the mid-80s to my whole career, basically, because of good leadership. I had some really intelligent managers. They were not afraid of career and the decision. They were leaders, and they promoted the FBI values and mission the best way they saw fit, and of course following guidelines, but they were not afraid of jeopardizing their career as not getting promoted or something. Right now, everybody is risk averse. And I believe that when you have that mentality, you're never gonna see cases like the ones we did back then in the mid-'80s.
Don't you believe that maybe today people are more worried about being politically correct and taking care of their own ladder to success than paying attention to their underlings so they could also become successful with you and help you climb up the ladder instead of stepping on their shoulders so you could get on top as a leader?
Yes, my last 10 years of my career, I saw a lot less of that, of managers, supervisors that were willing to propel you no matter what, and to be as successful in your cases and your career. But right now, last 10 years of my career, people were so concerned about their own career that at times, not always, at times, you see the heavy influence of their careers and the decisions where the things that I used to do, I would make an airstrip or set boats out to sea and do all kinds of things in Asia and Europe. You would be hard-pressed to find anybody that would give you permission to go ahead with an operation like that, because they're afraid of their own careers. Every now and then, people point fingers right away when things don't go perfectly. And then, back then, the managers didn't point fingers. They were really into their team and protected their teams.
How do you make sure you never contradicted your own backstory? You get so much, and you in the set as an undercover, and so many things are going in your head when people are talking or asking you for things that you cannot promise, or you're not sure if it could be done legally. How do you keep all of those thoughts straight in that particular?
So, yes, it takes a little bit of getting used to, a lot of getting used to, but when you are negotiating with these cartels, you first of all, you never talk about things you know anything about. You always follow your real life guidelines, and what you always draw from your past experiences, your real life. So when I was negotiating with the cartel, I always thought of transportation. My forte was ships and airplanes, and my forte, my understanding of drugs was very limited, but I was good in logistics, and that's how I really infiltrated these groups, whether it was I worked from white supremacists to terrorists to cartels, and I was kept in my lane, and then learned everything I could. You don't have to be a jack of all trades here. You don't have to know anything, but you have to know everything. But you have to know your profession and your story perfectly. So how do you stay in line? Well, you don't deviate and you don't make up stuff that just to hear yourself talk.
What were the early tests they put you through to check if you were legit? When you first get introduced, especially at that time, to Colombians, you are a complete stranger, you're not Colombian, and even though somebody in the organization is introducing you, all eyes are on you. And they also do intelligence work on the people that come in off the street. It's not like they don't have their own sources.
Right. So back then, we had to remember that the time and place of the, specifically in the mid 1980s, all the drug trade was not through Mexico, it was through the Caribbean. And even then, some of it was to Mexico, but the Mexican cartels charged the Colombian cartels 50% of the load. And while in the Caribbean, the crews from Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic were charging 20% of the load. So that's quite a big difference.
How do you communicate
And
with your
that's how
handlers?
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you communicate with your handlers without exposing yourself when you were overseas?
So I had a series of undercover agents. We had different tiers, and I mostly never spoke to my handling agent. I spoke to another undercover who was my partner in business and the dirty business. And then we had 2 undercovers removed, and then that way I didn't have to meet with my handlers. Now, this was a deep case scenario, deep undercover case scenario. So not all the undercover cases require that kind of arrangement. So if you're working street gangs, they're not as sophisticated as the South Americans were. Some of the people I was dealing with had master's degrees from Brown University or even MIT, or so they were very educated, and they had a keen sense of the business and the people. So it was really that kind of scenario where it was a deep cover scenario as opposed to a light cover.
What do you think is the main ingredients to building trust with the cartel figures?
Yes, nowadays it's tougher, but what you need to do is put yourself in a position where they come to you. You don't chase them, because that's a red flag. I opted for setting myself up with all the things they needed, and with patience, perseverance, over months and months they would come to me. That was aided by my sources who were just fantastic, high echelon sources that were in the business and knew the business. They grew up in the business, so I had a good start. They would sit me down over a beer or a couple of drinks, and we would talk about our life so I could learn. And we did that almost religiously every night.
How did you and the Bureau synchronize seizures without blowing your cover?
So in the book, I talk about a few seizures of large loads of narcotics, but what you can't grasp from the book is the timeline. So it's not like it was one after the other, one weekend after another weekend. It was a few years in between. So we were able to cast the blame and deflect to other groups that knew of our load together with the cartels and gave us plausible deniability when it came down to pointing fingers who did it, and then since I was laundering money for them successfully, and I was able to do a bunch of favors for them under the legal guidelines, that they realized that I had the connections and I couldn't possibly be the culprit of losing a specific load because I delivered $7 million and didn't seize it, so it couldn't be me.
How central was the black market peso exchange to what you observed? Because I remember at that time there were a lot of money transmittal, little offices popping up in Florida, in New York, in New Jersey, all over, where they will launder money through these little agencies, travel agencies that also send money overseas through the different ways, which was Western Union, and there was other companies that are, I don't know if they still exist. It wasn't that digitalized as it is now.
Right.
So it was easier to get over on the government than it is now.
Right. So the black peso market is very much alive today. Why? Because to begin with, the black peso market exchange is the invisible heart or the hidden engine of Colombian drug trafficking. The black peso market, the BMPE, is a system that moves billions of dollars in cocaine profits in relative silence. And so without the black peso market, the cocaine imported into the U.S. will be worthless if they can't get the money back. And we're not talking about a few $1 million. We're talking about $20 billion a year. So that requires the infrastructure to move money back to Colombia quickly. And so The black vessel market, if you can imagine London 20-30 billion dollars a year without the use of banks, without a paper trail, no traces, and with the help of legitimate companies and no movement of the money across borders. That is the key operational factor that makes black peso market so successful. Money never moves across borders. The system is designed for the currency to stay within domestic boundaries. The pesos in Colombia, the dollars in the U.S. And that old saying of follow the money doesn't work with the black peso market. You can't follow it unless you have an undercover agent or reliable source into them.
How did you communicate to the cartel that their money was safe with you?
So I again had a good source who was in the business. He had been with them for so many years, a good 10, 12 years before I joined him. And we caught him. We caught him red-handed laundering money. And I went to talk to him and I said, listen, we know you're laundering money. We don't know the mechanism of how you launder so much. So either I was in with him in the car, and after a few hours of talking, I said, listen, either you're going to jail or you can work out with me undercover and I'll take care of you. If you give me 100%, I'll give you 100%. And he agreed, and he gave me 100%. And that's how I got in, because he had been laundering a lot for them over the years.
When did you shift from being a smuggler to a more money guy?
So I never entirely, there wasn't a straight, bright line between my money laundering and drug smuggling. I told them that I told the cartels that they were not organized, at least in the area I was working. I was concerned that I was gonna change the money laundering. I told the cartel men that in Panama and Colombia that if I get caught with money, $2 million in my trunk, more than likely I wouldn't be arrested. I'd probably be detained and the money seized, but I wouldn't go to jail forever. If I got caught with 1,000 kilos, I'll go to jail forever. So I'm gonna stick to money laundering. I make a lot less, but it's a safer business for me.
What was the single scariest moment you experienced inside the cartel? There had to be a few, but one that comes up to mind right now, or when you were ready to look.
Yeah, a few, like you said, more than I care to remember, but I would want to say one time I got dealing with Cali cartel in Los Angeles. I was momentarily kidnapped, and they were very smart the way they did it. They were able to fool all our surveillance and catch me by surprise. But I was able to jump out of the car, and they didn't expect me to do that, jumping out of a moving car. Who does that? But I did. And I knew I could survive it because when I was a kid, I had to jump out of a car, and I did survive it. I got all beat up, but I survived. So why wouldn't I survive now? So I had to be the most scariest one, perhaps the boatloads at sea. Mother Nature does not pardon you, does not forgive, but the sicario at the house, it was probably the most the scariest one. I thought I was gonna get it then.
How do you talk your way out of those moments?
So you build up, it's in the planning. I was fortunate to do this kind of work with the best investigative agency in the world, that we do a lot of planning very quickly. That's our mantra and our ability, our talent, I think, and that we don't have to ask so many layers of permission to get our work done. Like, unfortunately, many other agencies and also the police departments. The police departments have talented agents and detectives and police, but the management is not set up to take those risks. And so you don't see a lot of those operations. But the way I talk my way out of those situations is I stay within within my legend. My legend is my background, my undercover background, and I don't come out of my lane or out of my persona, my alter ego. I don't abandon it. I stick to it, even if I think I should abandon it. But I stick to it because that's the only thing that might keep you alive. The not abandoning your planned persona.
How would you describe the leadership style of the cartel figures you dealt with at that time?
The ones I dealt with, they wanted to make money. They didn't want to be violent, but they needed to make money, and you needed to respect them. And the only way they got the respect was through violence. But the people that I dealt with here in Miami, Panama, Colombia, they were people that didn't want the problems of violence, and if they could, they would stay away from it. So the leadership was such that they were constantly trying to make sure that they planned ahead so they wouldn't get caught off guard.
How did you know it was time to wind down on the operation?
So that operation, I knew it was time to wind down because in a 16-month period, I had a lot of bouts and head-to-head encounters with violence and all of them were pretty in terms of they were the ultimate kind of violence where somebody was gonna end up dead. So I wanted to make sure it wasn't me, and so I thought it was time to wind down, but I never did wind down from undercover work. I wound down from that case. But at the same time I was doing that case, I was doing 6 or 7 other cases in other countries under different names.
Do you experience any letdown or emptiness when the adrenaline stopped flowing?
Yes, I think you do it, but in my case, like I said, I never did wind down from undercover work. I worked from after that case that I stayed on the book, that I worked undercover for another 15 years after that, in a different capacity, but still undercover.
What do you think most policymakers misunderstood about the cartels at that time?
The same thing that policymakers make with any group, criminal group or enterprise, and it's that they miss the end game. The end game being that a great work gets done when you start attacking the group or the cartel or a terrorist group, and then everybody's up firing on all cylinders to get the job done, and they do a good job. But then at the end, it almost feels like people get tired, and then you get another administration without the same objectives, and then you start winding down, and all the people that helped you gets left up in the air, and you can see that with a lot of cases like Afghanistan, and that's military, but it has the same message where all these people helped you out, and then you left the place and there was nothing to show for, you know.
How has the cartel behavior evolved since your operation ended?
They've gotten a lot smarter, and that with the advent of the Mexican cartels to the black peso market, once the Colombian cartels dispensed the narcotics from Colombia, in many cases, perhaps 75% of the cases, before the kingpins in Colombia let the drugs go, they've already been paid in full. And now it's the Mexicans distributing and collecting the money, and but they already have paid the Colombians, and the Colombians have a lot less risk. And that's one of the reasons why they're manufacturing so much more cocaine now than before, because they don't have to worry about collecting money all the time like they used to, and losing money and losing people. They stay from their safe houses in Colombia, operating the strings.
What role did corruption and compromised officials play in the cartel resilience?
Second,
What role did corruption and compromised officials in those countries play in the cartel resilience?
so the cartels are made so much more powerful, because of the corruption of highly influential politicians and leaders. And for undercovers, that is the problem, because they have the capability of calling friends around in the different political places, that they can find out who I am if they're given enough correct information about me. And that sends a problem with me, because it sends shivers up my spine. I might not want to work undercover if I find out there's a corrupt politician that might be able to help the cartels identify me.
How important is international cooperation today compared to when you were working undercover?
I think it's much more compromised now in the world theater, in terms of undercover operations and attacking the major international crime groups, and that there's a lot less. It used to be that a lot of the deals and goodwill were done over the personal treatment of the different politicians. And I remember when I was working this, I had a lot of colonels and generals from Colombia that truly believed in what we were doing with them, and they sacrificed in many ways, many times, their own lives and their families to make Colombia a safer place. So that cooperation right now, you don't see it as highly politicized, and I think the South America and Central America don't see us as friendly as they did back in the day, in the mid-'80s.
If you could brief Congress today, what would be one key point about the cartels that you will tell them to observe?
So the cartels are, especially the Medellin Cali cartel, and now they're not called the Cali and Medellin. As you know, they're splintered off in so many groups now, the Gulf, the this and the that. But it's that they thrive. The cartels thrive when the politicians in the U.S. are bickering over selling issues, and they don't have they lose track of the people they swore an oath to protect, and I think they're highly distracted, and the cartels know that they're the smartest people I ever met, highly educated, and studied the trends. So I would tell them that Congress, for example, I would tell them to pull all the stops and do the work the way it's supposed to be done. And they claim to be experts in this kind of work, but they're not.
What finally convinced you to tell your story publicly? Is it therapeutically? Is it that you felt an obligation to leave it for younger generations that might go into law enforcement to show the sacrifices that a lot of law enforcement agents all over the world, you know, are working to protect the United States and uphold our Constitution?
I couldn't have said it any better than you just said it, but the one reason a few reasons I wrote the book, one of them is given the bad publicity that the FBI has been getting lately, it's unfair because for every time they have criticized the FBI is out there doing this work day in and day out and doing a magnificent job. And so I wanted to showcase some of the good work that we had done that nobody ever heard of, you know. And then the fact that we're not just a law enforcement agency to put people in jail. I was more proud of the times that I was able to my actions undercover exonerate people than put them in jail. And a lot of times people would come into our business and I would say to them, you're not of this culture. I suggest you go away. And sometimes I did that. I came under criticism, but there was no sense in a person, there's no sense in somebody in the room being the adult and saying, you're not a bad person, get out of here. But you couldn't tell who you were, so you had to do it very skillfully.
What was the hardest part of reliving the experience on some of the pages in the book? Because you really put
So,
your feelings into the book. You could feel it when you read it.
right. So I was able to, with some help, put some of those feelings in my book. But I tell you what, I have hundreds of stories. Some of them, I don't think much about them, but when I tell people now, they're mesmerized by that. But I was so used to being involved in that stuff that I thought of it as doing my job. I was getting paid to do that job. I love to surf. I did that in the Navy and then the FBI. So I didn't think of it as a burden or anything. I still don't. I do go through some periods where I'm looking over my shoulder, but while I was worried looking over my shoulder, I got afflicted with ALS, and I didn't see that coming, So, goes to show you, don't worry about the minutia so much. You do your job and do it to the best of your ability. And if you don't love your job, do something else.
Have any former cartel associates ever run into you at a shopping mall, anywhere in the street?
Oh, well, yes, but it goes even deeper than that. For many of them, high place people, I kept a relationship with them after the fact, after they did jail time, and they are working currently helping our country. And but I can't say much more than that. But yeah, I've run into a bunch of them. But all in friendly terms now. It's incredible. Some not so friendly, but yeah.
What did this experience teach you about human nature?
Yes. That, people, if you go into a scenario like some of these undercover scenarios, you see really bad people, people that are nasty and bloody, bloodthirsty. But you see so many more that get caught in that situation. They're a product of their environment. And many times I was talking to some of these cartel members, and I realized that that could be anybody that took the wrong turn in life or was forced to take a wrong turn. I mentioned in the book about this guy who was an army officer, and he was a proud soldier. He was a captain in the U.S. Army, and while he wanted to make a career out of it, and he they diagnosed him with a serious heart condition, and they threw him out of the Army. And so I was picking up money from him. He had a successful drug distribution system. He was distributing about 1,000 every 2 weeks kilos, and I was laundering the money for him. He told me that he had no excuses for doing what he did, but he all he wanted to be in life was an army officer. I know that when they kicked him out of the army, he took the wrong turn.
What was the most important skill for someone who wants to be an effective undercover?
So, a few things, but when you build your legend, your undercover alter ego, you don't go far away from your real life, your beginnings, where you're from. You can alter it, but you're always going to be that person from that place. And that upbringing in your life is going to be the one that's going to get you through the undercover meetings. If you don't act yourself, what's going to happen is that the people are going to read you, look at you in the eyes and say, this person is acting. Again, you never talk about something you don't know. And that will kill you from the beginning, kill the relationship. And have a bunch of empathy and sympathy for these people if they're good people in nature. Because they act upon your kindness when you're talking to them. It's not all about cussing and fighting and having a bad, intimidating. It's about personal relationships. Treat somebody the way you want to be treated.
What does Justin mean to you today after everything?
Justice? Yes. So, justice means to me that, particularly in this country, in the U.S., it's the same as anywhere else, but we just have a more of a transparency than most other countries. Other countries are driven by the relative poverty, so they can't. The justice does not meet its purpose, and so justice is, of course, like anybody else would believe, that is adjusted to the time and the place and the people. The more affluent you are, the better chances of getting a good defense. So, and when I was doing this undercover work, I always kept in mind that I was gonna have to go to trial at some point. That I had to keep the moral imperative, and I couldn't embarrass the FBI or myself. That was the one thing in my mind that I always thought about when I went into undercover operation.
Where can people buy your book?
I think it's everywhere now. People are buying it a lot through Amazon, but it's on most of the major bookstores like Barnes and Nobles, etc.
You have a copy in front of you or no? Do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have it in the back, but perhaps you can't see it. It's right here.
Put it up so they could see it.
Okay.
The title is Inside the Cartel by Martin SUAREZ.
Right. And
that's you right there with the black hair, with the beautiful mustache.
Right. Yeah. The guy in the middle.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it does well. I might put up some more stories and other violations, such as foreign counterintelligence or a terrorism. But the foreign counterintelligence, you have to redact that a lot and change it. And the Bureau has to supervise the writing of the book in many ways. But the Bureau believes in showcasing some of the good work they do.
Yeah, there's another thing that many people don't talk about. The amount of FBI agent men and women that have lost their life protecting this country. And it's something that is overlooked, and maybe once a year they have the memorial for law enforcement officers that died in the line of duty. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I met a few of the people that had lost their lives in the performance of their duties, their sworn duty to defend the Constitution. And these are people that are mostly, I can't think of one that was not highly trained, and that it was, in most cases, it was bad luck. And they were thinking some of the issues that caused them to cause their death was for being concerned about others and at their own peril. So they most FBI agents are cut from the same fabric, and that they all want to do a good job, and they have that empathy for their fellow mankind to do it and risk their lives. You have some people that are, like everything, don't hold on to their sworn commitment, but for the most part, agents are not like that. The ones that lost their lives and the ones that were injured with them that I know of were people who would have done it all over again. Perhaps a little more covered and careful, but when you're in the middle of the operation, you being as careful as your training has set you to be, but sometimes the bad luck, like the people, the two agents that lost their lives most recently in Broward County, they were really good agents, very prepared, and it was a surprise to us that they were victims given the preparation that they had.
If you could leave the listeners today, Manny, with a call to action, what will it be? After seeing what is going on in the Caribbean, the buildup of this massive force against the evil of the Venezuelan regime that has tortured, killed, maimed, and is sending fentanyl through those loads of coke that is coming into the country, what will it be?
So the call to action would be to take action by either way, any way that you can. I mean, the private industry can do a lot. A lot of times, things that are ordered to them and raise an eyebrow, and they don't say anything because they will lose revenue. So to be kind about that, to be kind to their fellow man and woman to the extent that they won't overlook injustices, and you see something, say something. And if you see the hypocrisy of the governments like the Venezuelan government, take action, and especially if it's in your same hemisphere. So that would be the message, is don't sit idle, and when you are engaging in potentially compromising or dangerous situations, Don't let anybody, and you believe you're righteous and rightfully doing the good work, God's work. Don't let anybody discourage you. I don't know how many times I was told, quit doing UC work, quit doing undercover work. And I was convinced unequivocally that the undercover technique is the best on the investigative technique in the world, because when the agent stands in court and tells his story to the jury and the people, hardly everybody can impeach that. People want to hear it, as opposed to some conversation in a wiretap. You're not exactly sure what they're saying and why they're saying it, but undercover sheds light on all that.
Yes. My brother, mi hermano, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking your time. You are always on my prayers, the same with your family. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, that these holidays bring you many, many blessings. And you know, you could reach me by phone at any time, day and night.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and same to you. The best wishes from my family to yours.
Thank you, my brother. This concludes this episode of Equalizer. A very special thank you to our guest, former FBI Special Agent Martin SUAREZ, for sharing his insights drawing from decades of naval service and more than 2 decades of deep cover work against some of the world's most dangerous criminals and terrorist organizations. To our viewers and listeners, if you found value in this conversation, please give it a like, share it with your family and friends, and follow Equalizer through the links below so you don't miss the upcoming interviews. Your support helps me make this possible to bring forward voices with real operational experience and perspective. And finally, a heartfelt thanks to our production team for the constant work behind the scenes. Without the dedication and professionalism, this program will not be possible. Till next time, thank you, God bless, and happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas to my Christian friends, and happy Hanukkah to all. Thank you.